Hello everyone, today we're going to be learning about loops in Java. Now what is a loop? A loop is a block of code that can be executed as long as a condition holds true. Now we have three loops in Java. The first one is the for loop. Now the for loop takes in three things, which are it's a new variable, and we normally call this I, and we could set this to whatever value you want, and then your condition. So I is less than 10. So as long as I is less than 10, it'll execute that code. And then once that code is executed, it will do I++, which basically means it'll add 1 to I. And then it'll check again if I is less than 10. And then that process will repeat until I is not less than 10. So that will end when I is equal to 10. And then it'll just not run this code anymore and skip it. Next, we have while loops. Now, while loops are basically the same concept, except for a different format. So, you have your external variable set to, say, counter, and you could set that to any value. I'm saying 0, and then while counter is less than 10, and because 0 is less than 10, it will execute that code. But very importantly, at the end of your code, you want to do counter ++, and this will ensure that counter will be equal to 10 or not less than 10, so it'll exit that while loop, so it won't continue forever. Next, we have our do while loops. Now, do while loops are basically the same thing, however, the condition is checked after you execute the code. So it's basically the same setup, however, you will do your code first, and then you'll check if the condition is true. So this is useful if you want to just do something for the first time and check if it is right the second time and not the first time. Alright, so let's give loops a try in Java. So we can hop in to Eclipse, and in the project we've created, we could create a new class, and we can name that class loops. And we could also check this public static void main method that will automatically create this for us, so we don't need to type it like the last two tutorials. Now, once we have that, we're going to try to create a loop. Now, first, we're going to try to create for loops. Now, for loops, you have to have for, and then your bracket, and then remember, there were three things you had to put in. The first one is an integer, a new integer that you have to create, and we normally name that I or J, but for double for loops, you would use I and J, but for one for loop, you normally use I. So you can set that to 0. And then you have to create your condition. So we're going to do if I is less than 10. So if it's less than 10, then execute the code. And then you have to have your increments. So I++ just means every time you go through the loop, it'll increase by 1. So we could print out here I, and this should give us 0 to 9. That's what we expect, because the first time it's going here, it's 0, and 0 is less than 10, so it'll come in here and it will print out 0. Then it'll increment by 1 over here because I++, and then 1 is still less than 10, so it'll print out. So this will loop all the way until I is equal to 10, and when this happens, it won't execute this code anymore. So if we try this, it should be what we expect. Exactly. 0 all the way to 9. Now you could change, if you want this to 10, it would be I is less than or equal to 10. So this should give us an output all the way to 10. Yes, all the way to 10. Now if you want to start at 1, you could set I starting position at 1. Now if we try this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We could even do the squares, so it'd be I times I. So we're going to print out I times I. So we should get 1, then 4, then 9, then 16, all the squares. 1, 4, 9, 16, 36, everything we expected. So next we could try while loops. Now while loops, we could delete this, or we could just comment it out. So while loops would be, you would have your separate counter, so int counter is an external variable, and we could set that to 0, and then you do while counter is less than 10. So this is our condition right here. So, and then we could have our block of code, which is printed out again, we could print out counter, and then we have to remember we have to do counter plus plus, or else it's never going to come out this loop, because if it always remains 0, then it's always going to be true. This condition is always going to be true, and it'll always come into this loop. So if we try this, we should get something from 0 to 9. Yeah, exactly, 0 to 9. And this is basically the same thing as the for loop, but in different format. As the for loop, you create your variable here, and you have your condition here, and then you have your increments here. But our variables here, condition is here, and our increments in here. Now what happens if we don't have an increment? It's just gonna print out 0 forever until you stop it, or until it crashes. Exactly, it just keeps printing out 0. It's still running, it's never gonna end. So that's why it's very important to remember your counter plus plus. Now we could try do while loops. Now do while loops are the same thing, except for you do the thing, do the code first, and then you check. So how we do this, you do, and then you curly brace brackets, and then down here we have while. So we have to create a variable, int counter is equal to 0. Now we could do here, we could print out counter, and then here is our condition, and our condition would be counter is less than 10. And then you have to have your semicolon. Now here, what this happens is, over here is a variable, here is a condition, and then you also have to have your counter plus plus. So it's a bit different from here, as for the normal while loop, it'll check this condition first, and if this is wrong, it won't execute this code out at all. But however, for do while loops, it'll do this code first and then check if it's right. And this could be useful for a lot of things. If we get this, we should get output from 0 to 9, yes. And like we did before, we could do counter times counter times counter. We could even do that. Exactly, we get 0, 1, 8. And we could even print out words with this. So we could do counter is equal to, and then add, and then you have to add the counter. So when you do this, we should do counter is equal to 0 all the way to 9. Now that's basically it for loops. It's very simple. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask in the comments, and thanks for watching.